Hey, hello everyone. I think welcome to another episode of Speaking to the Best Content Marketing Leaders across the globe. I am streaming in from New York City over here. Today we have in the studio with us Catie Grasso. Catie is currently the head of marketing content for a company called ideate. They are the AI analytics platform that's been doing some fantastic work, right? And Catie has been from the Northeast, current core, right? How she described herself before the shoot was the current core Northeast girl that she is, right? Living in New York City for a while, Catie has been into marketing for a while, worked in larger organizations, more the traditional ones, moving into slowly the corporate side of the world, eventually now working in a much fast-paced startup, if I were to put it that way, right? But it's fantastic to have you, Catie, in the show.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Looking forward to it.
Super. So I think, Catie, we'll start with knowing you better, right? So I usually split this conversations in maybe 4 parts.
Okay.
There's Catie as a person. There's Catie as a professional. There's Catie as a AI learner, AI leader, whatever you want to call yourself as, right? And then now that you're working in an AI company, you cannot skip that out at all. And then there's a last part of Catie, maybe as whoever you want. I mean, last person we had on the show called themselves a bathroom singer. So in that case, where we're going to just know the fun side of you. Perfect. So I think let's start with knowing Catie as a person. Tell us more about you. Where do you grow up? What do you study? How did you end up being in the marketing side of the world altogether from so many fields that you had options for?
Yeah, love it. So I'm born and raised in the Northeast, as we talked about before we got started. So from Connecticut originally. Then for college, I went to a really small school called Stonehill College, 3,000 undergraduates, really small. Everyone knows everyone. I studied English with a communications minor. So I've always been into writing and known that I've wanted to pursue writing at some sort. But it wasn't until I entered into the real world, if you will, after college to figure out, okay, what am I actually going to do? And my first job was at a family-owned office supplies, merchandising, manufacturing company called WB Mason. And the job I actually took was called a Jedi. And no, I wasn't using a lightsaber like in Star Wars. It was a Junior Executive Development Initiative. That's what it stood for. So that means you got to rotate through different departments in a corporate environment. And after 1 year, I got to pick where I felt the most at home. No surprise there. It was marketing. So that's where I stayed for a few years.
It's like a marketing management training kind of a role in some sense.
Totally. And marketing was where I did my best work and felt the most at home. And I've worked in various forms of marketing, notably content marketing, for the past decade ever since then.
Super. And we'd love to get a sense around knowing Catie as a professional, right? Yeah. I mean, you can run all the way from companies like a WB Mason to Feedvisor to now at ideate.
Yeah.
You've actually come upwards in the ladder of speed and way companies move. And you have also kind of started seeing more impact of the work you do immediately as soon as you do it, right? Yeah. So love to understand, what does it look like to work in a larger organization where I'm pretty sure in companies like WB Mason, there's not a lot of content conviction particularly built in. It's slowly picking up now with the entire digital thing coming up. How was it over there to build that content conviction amongst people?
Yeah.
And how did it transform over years for you?
Totally. I think entering the corporate world at a, family-owned business where merchandising and printed materials were still the way of the world was definitely tricky. And I started off in merchandising and product marketing. That's where I worked on corporate goods. So definitely untraditional sort of way of marketing that very much worked at the time, right? Then my first foray, if you will, into AI-driven tools and software was this startup for sellers and brands on Amazon. And that's where I really started to understand, the power of algorithmic repricing, advertising optimization, and working with these brands and sellers on e-marketplaces to really understand, okay, how can we help them maximize the value of the work that they're doing? And it was there that I really said, I like the size of this business and this company. I'm not as savvy, or I don't enjoy as much the culture of a larger corporation. So that's really when I understood the power of AI-driven tools And that ultimately led me to Data IQ, where I've been for nearly 5 years. And what we do, we call Data IQ the universal AI platform. My job as a content marketer there is to really enable this barrier of entry to analytics and AI to anyone, so that from the most technical folks to the most business and domain experts, regardless of their background or role, can understand and participate in analytics and AI projects. So really going, to your point, from that sort of traditional family-owned, larger corporate vibe to super fast-paced, startup, scale-up, sort of mid-size, building the plane as we're flying it.
That is super cool. And I would want to kind of point out on your last two experiences at Feedvisor and Dataiku, right? I mean, a lot of people think that marketing in B2B companies is boring. A lot of people feel that because it is a lot of marketing, that's also a lot of accountability, because it's more demand generation to marketing. I mean, you're responsible for what business you're doing effectively in some sense or the other, right? Unlike, I'd be wrong if I said that on the B2C side it's not the same, but definitely it's more of the brand presence. It's more of a longer term play on content fronts, right? I'd love to understand, how does content marketing in a data analytics company work, particularly, or an AI analytics platform work?
Yeah, I think for us, it's super interesting. We need to make sure that, especially in this era of generative AI, there's a saturation going on right now. There's new topics and Gen AI models coming out every day. So our job becomes, how do we help our audiences wade through the noise, right? How do we make sure that the blogs, the product content, the campaigns that we're releasing help people wade through the noise? And what do I mean by wade through the noise? It's stuff like, what are they going to learn from us? Why should they continue reading our content? What emotion does it evoke for them? What are they going to take away? And that's really what I mean when I say ensuring that we help them wade through the noise and ensure that we have a pipeline of steady content for a variety of key personas. That's a big thing about a lot of tech companies today. We don't have one. Sure, we have a myriad of target audiences, but we only talk to IT leaders and no one else, right?
Right.
That's not how it works. We need to make sure that we have bespoke content for our different profiles and personas and a steady flow of it. And we need to make our stakeholders want to learn more and engage with our content. There's so much out there. So my job becomes helping those stakeholders really pick what is going to help them resolve their pain points now and assure them that they're going to be successful.
And interestingly, also you mentioned, right, about creating that content consistently every single day, right?
Yeah.
Because you're also partly responsible for the organic side of the content, right?
Yeah.
I'd love if you can kind of pinpoint on the fact of how do you look at organic growth versus content marketing?
Yeah.
What are the pillars of kind of empowering this? Because I just feel like a lot of people undermine the fact of what it takes to have full funnel, always on, regular, consistent content.
Absolutely.
And with this entire verdict of AI and Google search and things going on, how have you been able to kind of envision this? I'm not speaking of generative AI particularly. I'll come to that part, but this side of the world on the market.
Luckily, Dataiku has been around for a decade, and my being there for 5 years, the managers before me, luckily my manager has done a really great job of paving the way. And now throughout the company, our group is referred to, right, as a well-oiled machine. So I think that, yes, a lot of it has to do with just perfecting what has worked for us over time, but we don't do it alone, right? We have very closely our product marketing counterparts. And I think a huge value add for us that we have done is, in the last year, content marketing and product marketing combined together under one group.
Okay.
So that my team will be the first one to tell you, we're not the most technical people in the room. We are a group of content marketers at heart that write thought leadership content. But how do we make that really good content? We then collaborate with our product marketing counterparts to make the best final end product that's, technically sound, robust from a content perspective. So I think, to answer your question, it's making sure that these other groups we're collaborating with, we have this well-oiled machine. So product marketing is one of them. We work really closely with our comms and organic social team, sales enablement, for example, to make sure that we're equipping the go-to-market with everything that we produce. So I would be remiss if I didn't say that. I think my core answer to your question is, yeah, content marketing, we have a great system. We would not be nearly as successful without all the other groups that we collaborate with on a day-to-day basis. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that does. I mean, I'm also having like a follow-up on it,
Yeah.
right? How do you look at particularly the entire concept? See, thought leadership is a widely overused word, to be very honest. I mean, if I literally Google it right now,
Yeah.
there'll be at least 10 meanings of it, starkly different than each other. How do you look at thought leadership as a whole?
Yeah. I look at thought leadership content as content that is going to help you in a really pragmatic way answer your pain points. So I would not call thought leadership any of our most technical content. I would call thought leadership content things that are going to educate and inform your audience, things that are going to help them understand there's market validation here. This company has customers that have ROI metrics, maybe industry analyst recognition. They have that external market validation.
Right.
And then just the ability to help them walk away with something that they didn't know previously. So I really look at it as helping them address their pain points in a really pragmatic way and assure them that they're going to be successful.
Very interesting. And when you're creating content for a company like a Dataiku, the subject matter expert is very important because not
Absolutely.
any Tom, Dick, Harry can kind of create the content that you kind
Totally.
of work on, right? How have you been able to figure out that entire flywheel of talent of subject matter experts internally?
Absolutely. I think it goes off a little bit what I was just talking about with product marketing. We have a really robust sort of internal peer review process. So not only do we collaborate with everyone on my team has sort of a buddy on the product marketing team. So when they're producing their content, nothing really goes out for publication until it's been reviewed and vetted by our technical experts. So that's one piece of the puzzle. The other piece of the puzzle is technical expert is not the same level of expertise as a, line of business subject matter expert on pharma and life sciences content,
Yeah.
which is, a budding Gen AI and AI vertical in and of itself. So for me, there's always these sort of guardrails of a lot of times my team feels really comfortable with data-driven insights from a survey we ran, blog posts about certain roles and responsibilities in AI. But when we're talking about, intricacies of LLM selection, we're going to make sure we're collaborating with our product marketing team, especially if we're talking about how our product comes into play. And then same thing with our business subject matter experts. It's really a robust internal review process before anything hits that flywheel you were talking about.
Very interesting. And I just want to kind of also double down over there, right? How has the multimodal format of content been for you? Because I think text content is great, but it needs a lot of effort for holding people up. YouTube is also emerging as a large channel particularly. So how are you looking at that?
It's a great question and I love it. And I think we're going to continue to see more and more of it as Gen AI continues to multimodal LLMs and multimodal when it comes to Gen AI. So for us, I'm going to say this because it's top of mind. Every year we release a survey report of 400 senior AI professionals with one of our partners. And I think number one, data-driven insights and analysis, right? We find that our audiences, data and analytics leaders, IT leaders, business leaders, really stick to these data-driven insights where they can say, how do I stack up against a global organization? Where am I aligned? Where are my gaps and where are my holes? So for me, a lot of it is picking these sort of cornerstone pieces of content and saying, how can I give that 9 lives? How can I enable that multimodal approach from that cornerstone asset? So let's say we take that survey report. From there, I can get what? A blog series. That's 3 more pieces of content right there. A webinar, another piece of content right there. Take snippets of that webinar for organic social. That's 5 more things right there. Take that survey content and do an enterprise roundtable at events that helps our field marketers. That's 3 or 4 more things right there, right? So I think for me, it's making sure absolutely that every campaign is an integrated strategy across and has multimodal sort of endpoints. So content reuse has always been a key strategy on my team, but now more than ever in this multimodal world, it's actually easy to do if you just think about it from the beginning and say, where across the funnel can I reuse content and when?
Interesting. And love to also get a sense around, so I want to double touch on one question, right? You mentioned you were in a large company like a WB Mason, right? This is for a lot of marketers watching this, right? In a lot of companies, unlike Dataiku, See, Data Echo as a company is a very digital first company. People, you don't need to go people and teach them, hey, what is ML, what is AI. So building digital conviction is easier. Building content conviction is easier. But when you're working in larger organizations like that of your previous ones, right? Building content conviction is really tough because you ought to kind of tell people, hey, I mean, selling is fine, marketing is fine, but there's something like content marketing that exists, which is going to be maybe a slow burn over a period of time, but it's going to be like a more impactful methodology, compounding effects of it seeing out, right? We have seen two different set of organizations. One on the other hand, I see like organizations like maybe the HubSpots of the world, the Salesforces of the world, the Gongs of the world, who have done some fantastic job when it comes to content marketing. And then there are the larger premier organizations, the way they work, right? How did you go about building this conviction on content amidst the leadership, amidst your managers? And I'm not saying not that the managers don't understand this, but it's just because of a generational gap that has come in across the board. I've been hearing this for a lot of marketers particularly.
Yeah. I mean, I will say it was a decade ago, so I think a lot has changed and progressed and evolved since then. Gen AI was not nearly where it was, so it was a different time. First of all, I think that's important to put out there, but for me, I think, of course, that stakeholder buy-in is massive. It was a very interesting organizational structure that I was working in at the time, so making sure that, not only my manager, but my manager's manager were bought in on the efforts that we wanted to do, but also different types of marketing that we were doing at the time. Like I said, we were doing a lot of printed flyers. Right. It was very merchandising heavy because of the line of business that we were in. So I would say kind of night and day from where we are today. That sort of, family owned, more traditional enterprise versus a super fast paced, high growth scale up like I'm in today. So tricky one to answer. I just think a lot of it goes for where we were 10 years ago in marketing versus where we are today.
That is super good. I want to double touch on you working in an AI company, so I'm not gonna shoo you away with that AI question across the board. But how do you use generative AI today when it comes to marketing content? One, things that you're already using, things that you really want to use, things that you wanted to use but you haven't been able to use successfully. I mean, call this question as the experiments of my marketing content with AI.
I love it. I think we would be remiss if we didn't touch on this today, right? So I think Gen AI is going to continuously transform content marketing. I'll always remember my CMO's voice in the back of my head saying, content marketing is like going to be one of the number one use cases for Gen AI. So like join the party now and get used to it. So for me, I think that there are a lot of key applications for Gen AI and content marketing. I think we're seeing already large brands creating a ton of content, large volumes of content fast. And we're only going to continue to do so with more accuracy, personalization, context. And for me, being able to scale up that content production without sacrificing quality is huge. So being able to produce content creation at scale, that's for me the most tangible impact. But of course, there are a myriad of downstream impacts, things like SEO and content optimization, optimizing, we have things like Midjourney, optimizing the visual and the creative, optimizing strategy and ideation, the list goes on. So yes, in and of itself, it's going to transform the world that we live in when it comes to content marketing. For my team specifically, we use generative AI tools every day. I'm not going to list all of them. We're constantly experimenting with GPT, Claude, Perplexity, the list goes on. And from where we are today versus where those models were a year ago, it's night and day. We actually, as part of our team manifesto, we are required to use GPT. This is something that we created as a team, not that we are required from someone else. We discovered this as a team. Use the Gen AI tool every day in your work. Try it at least once. So what does that mean? We sort of have a matrix based on a workshop, couple experiments that we did of what use cases in our day-to-day work the best for generative AI. Things like writing a net new blog post, testing a subject line for an email, writing ad copy, writing a video script, writing an organic social post. Certain tasks behoove us more to use generative AI tools versus not. I think something I'll touch on a little bit later is this requirement of human in the loop. We need to make sure that when we're using these tools, we're still infusing human oversight and a human in the loop. So I'm not going to tell you to use generative AI for your most important brand campaign of the year, the most creative thing that you need to do. We use it as like a get the creative juices flowing, get some ideas. It should not be your end all be all, but it should absolutely be an extension of your team to help you be more efficient. And we're always experimenting, right? It's never set it and forget it. It's these models are evolving every day. Make sure to come back to them every so often. So that's what I would say. Does that
In
answer
my
your question?
selfish interest, I'll ask you, have you ever seen Pepper's website?
Yes, of course.
The headline of our website says human in the loop.
Human in the loop.
So thank you for that. In
Of
my selfish
course.
thanks for endorsing
Of
us.
course, we are very aligned at
makes
Data
sense.
IQ as well. Of you need human guardrails and oversight to make sure that AI has positive consequences versus the opposite.
That is super cool. I think that's been one of the deeper answers I've got in the East Coast, to be honest, about AI. Because while I was on the West Coast, to be honest, it was just a coffee table conversation,
Yeah.
literally in every Starbucks. I mean, people were like, "Hey, can you do this with AI? This with AI?" And after a point in time, I was fed up, and then I saw a post on LinkedIn saying, "Ki, hey AI, can you take care of my laundry and dishes while I
Yeah.
can go to work? I can go to office and do my work." I mean, it is to that extent, but on the East Coast, as I come to New York every time,
Sure.
I think I'm able to kind of learn more about how people are adopting it over here.
Yeah,
And very, very glad to hear that what you said. Right?
absolutely.
Great. So I think also, Cassie, love to get a sense around how do you look at an entire content flywheel? Because like you said rightly, there is a part of creating content every single day consistently,
Yes.
right? And I'm pretty sure that without a flywheel or an infrastructure and process cannot happen, right? So how does the entire work management for these people that are working in creating this content every day,
Yeah.
of course, with infusion of subject matter expertise from your sister pods on the product marketing side,
Yep.
to including how do you, like, if I were to put it this way, you touched upon technology, you touched upon talent, you touched upon strategy. If I were to kind of merge this all together, how does your content marketing stack look like?
Yeah. We have a very robust content marketing stack at Data IQ. I think that's just because we've, been a company. We're not a net new company. We've been around for a little while. And I think that for us, a key focus and what has helped us a lot is we have a lead time on our content. Let's say our blog, for example.
Right.
I'm scheduling blog posts 2-3 months in advance.
Oh.
So I think that that's just a quick, sub answer to your question is making sure that you have a well-oiled machine and a flywheel in place to be able to not be scrambling the night before something has to go live. So that's a big thing for us is working ahead of time to make sure that we have a robust content calendar. So of course, HubSpot is our content automation platform. Of course, Salesforce for our CRM. We have actually something that I will hone in on that's really interesting for us that has been super useful. I think probably more than maybe some people watching this might discover. We actually use a tool for super scrappy videos. It's called Play for those interested. We are trying to, how do you get people to pause when they're scrolling on organic social, right? So being able to self-serve as content marketers and product marketers to create videos, that's a really interesting piece in my content stack that people might not expect, is a quick, video editing tool. Of course, we have a video platform. We have, tricky to think on hand. We have a content marketing platform. It's called Path Factory, where enables you to, let's say you're reading a Data IQ ebook. Instead of just getting a static PDF, you're actually going to get that piece of content with 5 to 7 other related pieces of content to help you move either further down the funnel or move into something related to that value prop or something that is from that same industry or vertical. So without going too, specific and in the weeds, we have a really diverse tech stack, which I think helps us be able to achieve some of these, quick short-term wins, but also that long-term value generation and enabling that flywheel for a few months in advance. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that does. That is super cool. I think thank you so much for this ride. I'm not gonna bore you more. Let's go to the fun part of it, right?
Okay.
We've seen Catie as an AI learner, AI leader, both of it together. Last part is a rapid fire round, Catie. So I'm just gonna kind of
Here we
shoot
go.
you questions. 6 seconds to answer the questions. We'll
Yeah.
start with the easier ones first.
Please.
Okay, let's start. What's your comfort food like?
Chicken pad thai.
Ah, nice. When did you last have it?
2 nights ago.
Ah, feels like comfort food, right?
Totally.
Best place to visit? Favorite place to visit?
I've got to be biased here. I work for a French company. I've got to say Paris.
Haiku, uhu. Please watch for it, right? Okay, let us know about a humble brag of yours.
Ooh. I ran the New York Marathon last fall, my first marathon ever, and I'm excited to do another one.
Have you been running after that consistently?
I'm on a little bit of a break right now. I would say we're taking a little bit of a pause.
Yeah.
I had 6 weddings this year, so that's also a humble brag in and of itself.
Ah.
Busy summer, so maybe in the future another one for
Makes
sure.
sense. That's super good, right? 3 tabs that are always open on your laptop, except for your Google Suite.
I was gonna say Gmail.
I completely want to remove that. No Gmail, no Slacks, guys, please.
ChatGPT.
Guys, AI leader, she's not a learner. Yeah.
Ooh, that is so good. You're gonna stump me. I was gonna say Slack, but it's not a tab, it's an app. Okay, I need to think on my feet. I'm past the 6 seconds. My Gmail suite, it's always my content calendar in Asana. We use Asana for our content management. A Google Doc tracking my meeting minutes. Such a boring answer.
Yeah, and that's cool. But
Not
I
the
mean,
best.
I mean, people have understood you use Asana for sure.
Yes.
Over there, so that's what we'll take it from
But
there.
not the most
I mean, I was
exciting
just speaking to this person who was chief revenue officer at Asana. He was telling me over 30%, I think if I'm not quoting it wrong, of Asana's use case is content manager.
100%, I believe it. We love it. So 8 of those tabs that are open are different Asana projects. But if I can't use the Google Suite, that is like my number one. That is, I am in Google Docs like I live
Every day there.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. If you were to kind of choose any other profession than content marketing, what would that be?
I would maybe be a novelist.
Oh, is it?
I would love to be published as a writer one day, of a book or a short story collection.
Nice.
We'll see. I know it's really close to what I do right now, so if I had to jump ship, something maybe.
Do you still write? Do you
On the
write
side.
often on the side?
Not as much as I used to. I would love to do it more, but it's only so much time in the day.
One place except for New York where you definitely want to live the rest of your life. Guys, we're not answering Paris over here for sure.
No,
Okay.
I'll mix it up this time. Small town outside of Cape Cod in Massachusetts where my mom's family's from. It's called Mattapoisett, and it's just like nirvana for me.
Haha.
Beaches.
County girl, bitches. Yeah, I mean, nice.
Northeast to my core, like
Northeast
I said.
core, yeah. Favorite book? It could be a couple of them as well.
Okay. I mean, when my manager watches this, she'll laugh. The most beautiful but tragically sad book I've ever read is called A Little Life.
A Little Life.
Yep.
Okay.
It's 800 pages long. It's an adventure, so buckle up.
I feel sad after listening to
yes.
800 pages self.
Yes. I really liked Mad Honey by Jodi Picoult. I just read that recently. Anything by Emily Henry, book lovers, beach read.
Looks like someone is like a non-fiction,
Oh,
someone
yeah.
like a complete fiction fan
yeah.
in this case.
I have Obama's book. I have a few other, but I've been diving into. I need to take a break.
Get off from the reality of life.
Take a break from anything business jargony for my personal time.
No, that's super cool. And favorite sports?
Sports?
Do you watch sports?
Yes.
What sports do you watch?
Well, we should play a trivia game. Guess what sport I played in college? I always love this, and I think it'd be fun for your audience. It's an
American
Olympic
football?
sport. No.
Oh, it's an Olympic sport?
It was
Javelin throw?
No. Physical team sport.
Physical team sport?
Yeah.
Ice hockey?
No.
Hey, you come from the north. Basketball?
No. Rugby.
You played rugby?
Yeah.
I was close. I mean, American
You were-
football,
yeah,
like
you were
said.
close.
You were close.
So it got a lot of really good spotlight this year at the Olympics in Paris. So that was cool. I love sports. I run. I like to do hot yoga. Used to play rugby in college. Used to play lacrosse, soccer growing up. So yeah, always have been.
When are you
surrounded
planning
by
to play rugby next?
If I go to the LA Olympics, maybe I'll play for fun while we watch some games.
Yeah, you should.
But I
I
haven't
mean,
touched a ball since college.
so
It's
you
more
have
so-
you have 4 more years for
Yeah,
that
exactly.
now.
I'll
So
start
you
practicing now.
gotta get it back in
Start
track.
practicing now.
No, that is super cool. I think I'm not going to shoot you more questions. Thank you so much for doing this. Guys, for reference, this is Katie's first podcast. Doesn't feel like it at all. I mean, people on the studio can kind of vouch for it. Doesn't feel like that at all.
Should I give advice to content marketers?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, you can.
Forgot,
you can.
that
Was the thing you came in with.
Yes.
Okay, what's an advice to content marketers that you can give?
I think just in the era of Gen AI, it's not an easy task to be a content marketer. So the one thing that I would say that I say to my team is try to find that balance between human storytelling, human in the loop, like we were talking about, with those AI driven insights. So
left brain, right brain.
Exactly. You're going to want to lean heavily on some of that automation that Gen AI provides, but don't let that take away from using Gen AI and AI, at large for optimizing your delivery, personalizing your content, but making sure that you're still bringing those human-centered narratives. So that's what I would say. And I wanted to make sure I said that because I want to equip those that, might have been in my position that might be watching this, something to help them as a takeaway.
No, that is super good. Thank you so much, Katie, for doing this. It was fun, super fun. Hope you enjoyed it as well.
Blast.
Super.
Cheers.
I think cheers.